stand for a moment of silent reflection. I would ask that you also remember our friend Peter Wolf. You would join in the singing of O Canada. Mr. Hutton, can you lead us in roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Wharton. Councillor Doncaster. Present. Councillor Donahue. Here. Gordon Nemo.
Present.
Councillor Farr.
Present.
Councillor Gibson.
Yo.
Councillor Grubbs. Here. Councillor Kingsbury.
Present.
Councillor Love.
Present.
Councillor McKay. Councillor Miller. Councillor Murphy.
Here.
Councillor Peckett.
Present.
Councillor Randall. Present. Councillor Robinson.
Present.
Councillor Stack.
Here.
Councillor Sweet.
Here.
Councillor Wisniewski.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Wharton.
Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on. And adoption of the minutes of the September 28, 2016 meeting, which are on the website. Councillor Wisniewski, second by Councillor Love. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None is carried. Thank you, Council. As we gather in chambers this morning, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting today on traditional territory of the First Nations. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. Members of County Council, during the month of September, I attended 24 meetings on county business. Sorry, I should have said October. I don't know why I said September. On October 3rd, I attended the Purple Ribbon Kickoff to observe Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month supported by Family and Children's Services in Pembroke. On October 4th, I attended as chair of Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, the Ontario Federation of Agricultural Media Day, held in Queen's Park in Toronto. On October 5, I attended the Mrs. Luncheon in Garrison, Palawa. October 6th, I continued taping the up-to-date segments with Coach Co. Topics of discussion are the media and media relationships. The tribute segment to Peter Wolf, a reporter for My FM News. An update for Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. An update on rural natural gas expansion and the Wardens Community Services Boards. On October 12, members of the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and the Eastern Ontario Mayor's Caucus met with the Premier of Ontario, Kathleen Wynne, in Kingston to discuss key issues of concern for Eastern Ontario. The face-to-face meeting, which I moderated with the region's representatives, was held at the request of Premier Wynne, who was in the city of Kingston to address the Chamber of Commerce. This was an important opportunity for the Warden's Caucus and the Mayor's Caucus to speak directly to the Premier about the situation here in Eastern Ontario facing our communities, our residents, and our businesses. Specific actions requested of the province of Ontario was investing $1.5 billion over the next 20 years to expand natural gas in rural communities and to hook up the farmers and businesses across eastern and southwestern Ontario. Supporting the Picton terminals and the Renfrew pump station projects. Supporting the expansion of mobile broadband and emergency first responder services in eastern Ontario through improved cell networks and public safety broadband network. Investing significant additional funding in critical municipal infrastructure such as ports, roads, bridges, waters, and wastewater facilities. Helping control municipal operating costs by fixing the interest arbitration system and the heavy financial burden created by joint and several liability. The current approach, which is being taken by the courts, is workable. We also discussed the rising cost of electricity as well as the rising cost of lease. On October 15, I participated in a panel on regional economic development held at Guelph University. On October 19, I welcomed attendees of the Bridges to Better business event held at Best Western in Pembroke. On October 20, I was interviewed by the Farmers Forum newspaper on the impact assessments on farmland, which has risen approximately 19% in Renfrew County and 16% across the province of Ontario. On October 1, I chaired a meeting of the Eastern Ontario Warden's Caucus held in the County of Peterborough. The 2016 priorities of the Eastern Ontario Warden's Caucus are advocacy on hydro costs and natural gas expansion, advocacy on Eastern Ontario Growth Plan, support Eastern Ontario Leadership Council, and the ongoing advocacy on policing costs, interest arbitration, and joint and several liability. We also developed the priorities for 2017, which will be presented to the incoming wardens in January. On October 23rd, I participated in Sunshine Coach Radiothon with Heritage Radio. On October 27th, I will be attending the inaugural event entitled Out and About with EDCO, held in Peterborough, which is an event engaging and showcasing Eastern Ontario. I'll be making a presentation on who we are and the mandate of the Eastern Ontario Warden's Caucus and our successes. During the month of October, we initiated the public open house regarding the future of the CP rail corridor, and we are at this point 50% complete. I will remind those assembled here today of the following: the County of Renfrew, experience our history, share our future. This concludes my address for this session of County Council. Thank you. And with our delegations, Mr. Hutton, could you lead off, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. Our first delegation is a check presentation to the Cunwalla and Deep River Inclusion Program. These are the proceeds from the Warden's Golf Tournament and the staff the other day. I would ask Victoria Marina of the Phoenix Center to come forward, and also Councillor Sweet is the co-chair of that committee. So please come forward, Marina, up to the podium, and we'll make a Warden will do a check presentation to the group. And unfortunately, the Boys and Girls Club of Pembroke, which was also designated under the Warden's Golf Tournament, could not be here to take that.
Good morning. So on behalf of Greg and the Phoenix Center and the Inclusion Project Committee, I would just like to thank you all for supporting the Inclusion Project. To date, the committee, which is comprised of community representatives from across the county, have put their efforts into initiating several projects that favor community inclusion. These include bringing buddy benches to 5 schools, providing education on bullying and bullying prevention, pledge flags, which are signed by anyone vowing to support inclusion, and we are currently working on our 5th flag right now. We've also created a survey on bullying as a form of collecting data within the community. And finally, we're piloting a few different activities that are meant to improve self-esteem in children, including drumming. In the upcoming year, we continue to develop these projects, and we're also hoping to broaden our scope to bringing inclusion to the workplace. So these funds will help us greatly in achieving our goals of improving these projects and building upon them and bringing them to other communities, as right now they are in Petawawa and Deep River. Thank you.
Thank you. As always, it's difficult to pick worthy community groups to hand over our funds to, because there are so many causes that are important to each of our communities. And I'd like to thank our organizing committee because Bruce Beakley and his department put this together on a regular basis. And just for your information, this is the 12th year of holding the Warden's Tournament, and it's to date it's raised $48,000, which we've been able to turn back into the community to various causes over the years. So, you know, we're very fortunate to have the golfers that turn up on a regular basis, and extremely fortunate to have our many sponsors who year after year put up prizes and show up and enjoy the day with us. So thank you to the golfers, and also thank you to our sponsors and to the public for continuing to develop our community and ask us to partner with them. We're very fortunate. There are so many worthy causes, and I hate that term. I'm not sure what else to use, but there are so many worthy causes that we need to support, and this allows us to do that. So thank you to everybody. And now, Mr. Hutton, you're back on again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ward, members of the County Council. I'm certainly pleased at this point to welcome Norm Lemke, former CAO, back into the chambers today. Norm is the municipal advisor to the provincial negotiating committee for the land claims. His role is to advise the province on municipal issues related to the land claim. Welcome back, Norm. We also have CB Pappen at the back of the room. CB, and I had it written down here somewhere, CB is the Strategic Issues and Communications Advisor for the negotiations of the Pembroke office. So welcome, CB. Norm and CB updated our municipal advisory committee on, I believe it was Monday. Councilors Grunt, Spar, and Reinwald, and Martin Demo, although he wasn't able to make that meeting. So welcome, Norm, and please update us as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Warden, members of County Council, pleasure to be here at County Council again. It's been some time. After roughly 30 years of being with County Council, it's been quite a vacation since 2010, but it's really quite enjoyable to get back here, talk to the committee, and now to County Council. I want to give you an update. My role, let me explain first of all, my role with the Algonquin land claim process is to represent municipal interests and to try to bring to the table, because I do have a seat at the main negotiating table, the needs of municipalities, because the land that it will become part of this treaty will be under municipal jurisdiction. So it's very important that municipalities continue to maintain a strong interest in the land claim, and as it moves ahead toward treaty, we hope that you will be able to give it the attention that it needs, and we certainly appreciate your attention to this point in time and all the various initiatives that have been taking place, especially through consultation. We had a very, very significant milestone achievement a week ago, Tuesday, the 18th, with the signing of the agreement in principle. And let me say, first of all, the agreement in principle is very much a guiding document. It's not a legal document, it's a guiding document, but it sets out the parameters of the cornerstones, if you will, of what the parties have agreed to. So in terms of land, the 117,500 acres, the 300 million in cash, and various other elements to the what will be the treaty are set out, and basically from there it means that the the legalese, if you will, the negotiations of the wording toward the final agreement will be essentially putting the meat on the bone of that agreement in principle. So a very, very significant document, a very significant point in the negotiations process. I want to step back and just give a little bit of background in terms of where we've been, and then we'll talk a bit about next steps. I won't go back to 1772 and then come forward from there, but to mention that that was basically the first time that the Crown was petitioned by Algonquins for a treaty. So some 250 years. Some might say that's a long process, but it wasn't until 91, 92 that the province and Canada, respectively, agreed to move ahead toward treaty, to negotiate a treaty with the Algonquins. So that began the process of what we now have. For the first period of time, there was a number of changes in the chief negotiators for the Crown in particular, some changes with the Algonquins, and it didn't get as much traction, I think, as the parties thought it would at that period of time. In '96, the Municipal Advisory Committee was formed, and basically that was the municipalities in what was anticipated to be the land claim area were invited on a periodic basis to come and receive an update from the chief negotiator for the province in particular on the progress. The municipalities did so and found that still it wasn't coming together perhaps as quickly as they thought they would like to see it. But in any event, the committee did continue on. The municipalities really expressed an interest in seeing this treaty come to fruition, recognizing that it had been an extraordinarily long period of time since the 1772 first petition, and saw it as something that would be happening sooner than later. It needed to happen. It needed to bring reconciliation. There was also another committee formed, the Committee of External Advisors, and that was a group that was largely interested parties such as cottage associations, anglers and hunters, various groups out of Algonquin Park, and they met on a similarly, roughly a quarterly or half-yearly basis for updates. The real, I'm going to say the majority of the progress occurred after 2005, roughly. I know in through 2007 and 2008, there was a lot of activity at the main table, negotiating table. The lands table saw a lot of progress where they had agreed upon the quantum of land and the quantum of money, and they were moving toward conclusion of a proposed land package. The outcome of that lands package saw a total of 200 plus parcels of land. And it sounds like a lot, but there were a lot of smaller parcels. We have to keep in mind that throughout this land claim area, running from North Bay to Hawkesbury, that there are 10 different communities. And so, of course, the communities in, say, Charlotte Lake or in Mattawa are likely to have very different land interests, and similarly with North Bay and Ottawa. So it was structured in a way that there was land in the various communities, so that in itself gave rise to a number of parcels of land. The amount of land was a negotiated amount. It was determined by the parties to be the appropriate and best outcome for both parties. Obviously, considerations of other settlements went into that determination. And it was also decided that the lands would be transferred to the Algonquins as a nation in fee simple. It would be deeded land. It's not in any way similar to a reserve. It was the transfer of Crown land to the Algonquins in fee simple. It would be held by deed the same as non-Algonquins would hold a deed. It would be taxed the same as non-Algonquins would be taxed. It would be subject to the same provisions for building permits and other considerations as municipalities would have. So in 2000 and at the end of 2012, a preliminary draft agreement was put in place. We held extensive consultations with the communities, with municipalities, with interested parties and individuals. I'm not sure, but I think it was in excess of 200 in total, if I'm not mistaken, CV. There were a significant number of different initiatives taken. So it was seen as important to consult with the public. As a result of those consultations, there was some modification to the preliminary draft, and the Algonquins, of course, needed then to review it, to consider the content of it as a document to move forward on. So there was a ratification held, and you would have heard through the news that there was a very large and high acceptance in the various communities, except for the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan, where there was essentially a less than 50% vote. The Algonquins since that time have used that time to meet and discuss and do whatever things they have chosen to do to update and to try to resolve the concerns that were raised as a result of that outcome. And we were subsequently advised by Chief and Council that they had agreed as a Chief and Council to proceed to sign the preliminary, or to sign the agreement in principle, that the concerns had been, in their views, satisfied, and they were happy to move ahead. The next big step, of course, as we mentioned earlier, was the signing of the agreement in principle. And that will be very much a document that the parties will be able to focus on instead of starting from scratch and all of the considerations that might go into it. They now have a document that will very much be a roadmap, if you will, toward the next few years toward treaty. So with this in place, the parties are now back to the negotiations table to try to structure what will become the treaty. Time-wise, different thoughts on that, and it's going to depend very much on how the negotiations proceed from here. Some will suggest it's 3 to 5 years, 4 to 5 years, so somewhere in that vicinity is seems to be the majority of those that venture a guess on that would suggest it would probably take. So over that period of time, final details will be put together. There is still going to be considerable consultation as a result of a couple of things. The fact that the negotiations have now resumed from the agreement in principle, but also by virtue of the fact that we had an election, a municipal election a couple of years ago, and now we're into a situation where there are a number of members on various councils that have not had a lot of participation or involvement with the land claim and the consultations that went with that. So we would anticipate that over winter, negotiations will continue. The anticipated or the hopeful timeframe for continuing the next round of consultation would be spring of 2017. We would hope to have municipal councils dealt with as a group, and then general public consultation as well. Obviously then going to individuals or groups that want to have a forum to discuss concerns. So it's anticipated that next spring will be the majority of the next round of consultation. The Municipal Advisory Committee that we talked about, or I mentioned earlier, is not likely or will not continue in the same forum that it did in the past. Basically, it was all the municipalities in the land claim area, but now with the identification of the lands in the various municipalities, there are now going to be those municipalities that have land selects, those that do not have land selects. That's not to say that those that do not have land selects aren't still interested, because from an economic point of view, there's land and there's money that can be used, and municipalities obviously can work with Algonquins to help ensure that there's good opportunity here in Renfrew County and indeed in the land claim area to help the Algonquins move with some initiatives in economic development, helping everyone. The negotiations will simply continue on. The extent to which consultation continues after that will be further negotiations. At the end of the day, when there's a document ready to be voted on as a treaty, the Algonquins, of course, will be required to have a vote on that. Canada and the province of Ontario will also have to pass legislation to give it effect. And we would anticipate perhaps 5 years out for that. I just want to throw in a word of encouragement so that County Council is aware that Jim Hutton and the other CAOs throughout the land claim area have been very helpful in, we meet on a infrequent but an occasional basis and seek input from that group in terms of various elements of it, what they see as probable consultation timelines, those various things, because they're a little closer to what's happening in the municipalities themselves. Following the treaty itself and the enactment, there's going to be an implementation period, and that implementation period is likely to be quite lengthy. The transfer of the amount of land, the 117,000 acres, is going to be a significant piece of work. That land has to be surveyed, deeded, transferred. There has to be detail in terms of how the cash flows. So all of those things will follow treaty. And that's a significant piece of work in itself. So pleased to be able to stand here today and say that good progress has been made. Obviously, considerably more progress in the last 7 or 8 years than what has occurred in the last 250 years. And from what I'm hearing from every municipality that we talk to, they're glad to see it moving ahead and hopeful that it will come to conclusion as soon as possible to the benefit of the Algonquins and everyone. It certainly is an initiative that is very timely, perhaps way past its time, but good to get this type of treaty in place. There's a long history here. It needs to be preserved, and it needs to come to a good conclusion in the form of treaty. I'll perhaps close with that. If there's any areas of questions that you want me to touch base on, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you. And perhaps I'll just leave it with that overview, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Councillor Dunn, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you to you also very much, Mr. Lemke. I certainly concur that my township is one of those that's interested. There are certainly interests that have legitimate place at the table for discussion as these are going, but I certainly commend the process heretofore and going forward. There is still further opportunity. My question specifically here, with respect to the fee simple, so it's my understanding that the Algonquin of Ontario will be receiving title to the property, and they are a party to these negotiations. So I guess the question is, akin to, I suppose, a corporation, does the organization of the Algonquin of Ontario have status as a person to be the owner? Like, this is going to be a collective ownership as opposed to an individual ownership. Is that not correct?
Some of the detail to be finalized on that, but call it an Algonquin trust or an organization such a group such as that. There was some assumption, I know, at the municipal level and throughout communities that properties would go to individual members, beneficiaries, if you will, and that's not to be the case at all. I'll call it an Algonquin trust for lack of a better term. That is yet to be determined just what form that takes, but it would be a legal entity, and the lands would be held by that trust.
Are there any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Lemke. I know when you left here in 2010, you vowed never to wear a tie again. I don't think I've seen you in 7 years with a tie on, so congratulations.
I'm holding it well on that front. I actually had a tie out this morning, and I said, given that we're at main table negotiations and out a bit, that wouldn't be good for the rest of the day, and that was my excuse. That was the only one I needed. Thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated.
And now I believe, Mr. Boland, you're going to introduce our next delegation.
Thank you, and good morning, Warden and members of council. Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce Chris Hinsberger. Chris is no stranger to these chambers and is maybe familiar to many members of council. He's the president of the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association, which is an advisory committee to county council, and in his spare time, when he has it, he operates Bonachere Caves, a very successful tourism destination within the county of Renfrew and out in the Bonachere Valley area. Chris is going to provide a report to committee to provide an update on some of the activities and initiatives of the OVTA in the past and going forward, and providing some statistics regarding the performance of the tourism sector, which is obviously a very important economic driver for those of us here in Renfrew County. With Chris, we also have at the back of the room a number of staff today. Alistair Baird, no stranger to members of this council, who is our manager of economic development. Melissa Marquardt, who's our marketing person within OVTA. Leva Quadrum, who works with communications within OVTA. And I don't see Helen at the back. Helen Giroux is our admin assistant within the OVTA and economic development group. So, Mr. Hinsberger, welcome, and we look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Is this on? Yes. Yes, again, my name is Chris Hinsberger. I was born and raised in the Ottawa Valley at the Cottage Hospital, or was born in Pembroke at the Cottage Hospital here in town. I've played ball in every ball diamond in the Ottawa Valley. I've played hockey in every rink in the Ottawa Valley. I have fish paddled and swam in dozens of lakes and rivers in the Ottawa Valley. I've pedaled my bike on dozens of roads in the Ottawa Valley. I spent countless hours watching and dancing to local music. I was raised in the Ottawa Valley by two parents who taught us kids that looking after your community was just as important as looking after yourself. I wear the love of the valley on my sleeve every day. However, today it says, I love fossils, but that's a story for another time. I feel that being here in front of you today is a privilege. And just so we're clear, all of this does not make me a better spokesperson for the Ottawa Valley, because I now work side by side with folks who have chosen to make the Ottawa Valley their home. And believe me, they are just as passionate about the place they have chosen to call home. Warden, Mayor Reeves, county staff, County Council OVTA board members, Mayor Glenda McKay, Reeve Glenn Doncaster, and former County Council OVTA board member, Mayor Jen Murphy, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow storytellers. OVTA staff and myself, along with other Ottawa Valley tourism stakeholders, have just come off a 2-day regional rural tourism conference in Perth, put on by the Ontario Highlands Tourism Organization, the only regional tourism conference in our region. The theme of the 2 days was Small Towns, Big Stories. As most of you remember, it was our turn last fall to host this event, and what a wonderful success it was, and an opportunity to showcase what the Ottawa Valley has to offer. We did a great job last fall, and our friends in Lanark County did not disappoint the past couple of days, and as partners in our region, their success is our success. I have another story to tell, but before I get to that story, I would like to take some time to talk about how we connect those stories to the world out there, and the success we have had in getting people to come here from all over Ontario, Canada, and the world to not only hear these stories, but to become part of our stories and to create their own stories. And I have my assistant and colleague with me who will work through these slides. The first slide talks about some numbers about our visitation and where people come from. As we can see, we get visitors from Renfrew County, and the amount of money they spend. Visitor spending, you can see how much, $182.7 million. That's our little piece of the pie, because in Ontario Highlands it's $518 million, in Ontario $22.7 billion. That's a lot of money flowing into our local economy. Same-day visits in Renfrew County, 885,000. Overnight visits, and that's the key to our marketing. We want people to enjoy what they have around here, but we want people to stay overnight. Inbound traffic, and I'm not going to go through the numbers, but we'll take a moment. You can see the numbers. We have people from the United States. We have people coming here from overseas. And next slide. The demographics. Where are people coming from? People coming from Ottawa, Carleton area. We have visitors from Renfrew County, Northumberland County, people coming from Toronto and Hastings County. We are a natural asset. We have natural beauty here. Our current market are, in fact, a lot of nature lovers. People are attracted to outdoor experiences, particularly camping and recreational activities. We promote to the connected explorers. These people have a deep-seated need to travel and experience new things and immerse with our locals. And the feedback I get from people is they kind of like us here. They want to talk to the locals. They want to hear our stories. Our membership, our OVTA membership, is sitting now at regular members, 212, special event members 2, artisans 5, and allied 13. A couple of years ago, we undertook to change the category so that we were more inclusive. So we do have a membership structure and of course a fee structure that goes with that. And that accounts for, as you can see, just over $23,000 in revenue from membership volume. Okay, product development initiatives. These things are done in coordination with our Ontario Highlands Tourism Organization, and I want to draw attention to the fact that we have our Executive Director, Nicole Whiting, in the room. Just over 6 years ago, an RTO model was developed in Ontario, and it's not simple enough to say that this brought more resources to us. Of course it did. What we've done here at the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association level is partnered with Ontario Highlands, and as a private business person in the area, I've seen the wonderful benefits this partnership has had. And we all know the math. When you take 2 people or 2 entities and put them together, do you do twice the work? No. You don't do twice the work. You do more than twice the work. And the partnerships that we've developed with Ontario Highlands, bringing more people to the area and getting us the chance again to tell our stories. I'll draw attention to the fact that you have an information package in your red folder. The Ride the Highlands program, a wonderful program. It's aimed at people on motorcycles, if you're not familiar with that brand. And you've got an Ontario Highlands Ride the Highlands map in your information package. Recreational geology. And I should just take a moment to mention that these programs were developed as a result of identifying the assets in Ontario's Highlands and the potential to draw more visitors. And the recreational geology, of course, as a business person in geology, I've seen the benefits of that program and how many more visitors that has brought to not just my business, but my like-minded friends in geology. And of course, we all know that when people come to our area and spend money, it creates employment for us old folks, but it also creates a lot of jobs for young people. We are developing here in the Ottawa Valley a bicycling map that will soon be out. Again, that's bringing people into the area to enjoy what we do here. And of course, all these things we do to bring people to the area because we want to provide activities for people who visit us also enhances us locals and our lifestyle. We are a maple syrup producer, as are people across the Ontario's Highlands. So people are in the process of developing culinary trips or tours through our area, and that's another potential that was identified as what do we have in common through Ontario's Highlands, and how does the OVTA connect to that stuff? Again, not just bringing people to our county, but to all the partners in Ontario's Highlands. Our marketing highlights, yes, our mandate is to go outside the area to bring people to our area. We go to trade shows, we go to the Toronto and Montreal motorcycle shows, and I don't know, folks, if you've noticed more motorcycles on the roads the past couple summers, but I sure have. We go to the Toronto Outdoor Adventure Show. We go to the Toronto International Snowmobile, ATV, and Power Sports Show. And of course, we know in the Ottawa Valley that we have fun in the wintertime. We are a 4-season destination, and snowmobiling is a big deal, as is ATVing in the wintertime. It is a big deal around here. And we also go to the Outdoor and Adventure Show in Ottawa. Rendezvous Canada. We are marketing to the international travel trade through a couple of programs, again, partnerships developed through Ontario's Highlands. And I'll draw attention to the fact that in your information folders, you have our Wonders of our Earth and our Canadian Canoe Route passports. And again, driving business from outside the area into our area. Media relations, which is very important to us because, of course, you can buy advertising, as we all know. You can buy advertising and people will look at your ads. When people look at a write-up or an article or a newspaper article, a magazine article, whether it's online, it's called third-party endorsement. That is 4 times more likely to drive people to your neighborhood.
We were featured on Powerboat TV in January of this year. Profiled the Ottawa River as a boating destination, highlighting Pembroke, Petawawa, and Deep River. We are in Mercedes-Benz magazine, and again, that article is in your information folders. Mountain Life magazine in the summer of 2016, profiling the Madawaska Canoe Center and the Madawaska River. Hey, what's PWC stand for? Personal Watercraft. Personal Watercraft Tour on the Ottawa River in August 2016. That was featured in the Intrepid Cottager. Post Snowmobile magazine featured us, Pembroke and the Ottawa Valley as a snowmobiling destination. The Huffington Post, and that copy of that article is in your information folder, featured Barry's Bay as one of Ontario's best small towns for fall touring. And Narcissy Toronto featured Pembroke as an Ontario fall getaway. In our county, we have 10 visitor information centers. And as you can see by the numbers, and the numbers aren't in for this year yet, we have welcomed over 15,000 people. Often in the Ottawa Valley, the first point of contact that people coming into the area have is with our people at the visitor information, VICs or visitor information centers. These are often young people on student employment. What's kind of cool in the Ottawa Valley, and it's about our seniors who are manning these centers. And as you know, our seniors, I guess some of us are considered seniors, we are the folks that have stories to tell, and we certainly like to share those stories. We, as part of Ontario Highlands, we have the Ovation program where people are evaluated by mystery shoppers. So people come into our places of business. Every year, our VIC centers are mystery shop, and they are evaluated so that we can stay sharp. And it's kind of fun, and of course we pass, and even if we don't pass, we get tangible information about how to move forward and get a pass so that we can do a better job of welcoming visitors. Okay, upcoming cool stuff. In 2017, moving forward, media relations, there will be a filming of Snow Tracks TV episode featuring the Ottawa Valley and Haliburton as a snowmobiling destination, and increased blog outposts to support the Come Wander brand. Come Wander is a branding through Ontario Highlands. We wander, and the whole wandering brand is about experiencing the people, talking to the people, enjoying the outdoors, and that's what we do, we wander. Product development, cycling. As I mentioned earlier, we will have a printed map encouraging people to come to the area to cycle, but again, enhancing the lifestyle we have here as locals. Maple Culinary, continued support and development of this new product. International marketing will have a continued presence at Rendezvous Canada to support the travel trade partnership and industry involvement. Again, I mentioned the passports that are in your information folders to help illustrate that program. And of course, Canada and Ontario 150, there will be 150 celebrations all across our county and all across Ontario and Canada, and the OVT is committed to work with municipal partners to make sure that that word gets out there about those initiatives, and it's going to be fun next year. Well, it's fun in the Ottawa Valley every year. There's our contact information, and I will speak on behalf of these folks that call them, email them. They're very responsive. They like to talk about what they do, and we all like to talk about the lifestyle we get to experience here in the Ottawa Valley, and we want to tell our stories and we want to share it with people. So there's a contact for our office staff. Okay, that's sort of the meat and potatoes of what we do as at the OVTA. Just one end is talking about telling stories. And of course, at our Ontario Highlands AGM, we're encouraged to tell our stories. because it's the stories that people want to hear. So I want to finish off with a little story. 500 million years ago, the Ottawa Valley was under a vast tropical sea. Our continent of North America was sitting down near the equator. Tectonic plates shifted and drifted apart from each other. Our continent drifted and twisted northward, moving 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch a year. On its journey, it was forced to great depths and great heights, causing metamorphic changes. And add in some recent glaciation, and you have the landscape we call home. Fertile fields for farming, forests for lumbering, mineral resources for mining, lakes and rivers for water sports, mountain ranges for skiing. Our culture is defined by the activities we engage in, due directly to the landscape we inherited from Mother Nature. We tell the stories of the land and people through words expressed through stories, poetry, and song. It is now the responsibility of everyone in this room and everyone in this county to do our best to keep those stories being told, so the generations that come after us get as much enjoyment as we do from this land. We all have a role to play in this very important responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Two things. Helen Giroux has joined us, who is the administrative muscle, Alistair? The boss, okay. And Nicole Whiting from OTO is here as well. And I apologize, Nicole, I was to mention you earlier and I got distracted by reading something at the same time as I was trying to talk, so my apologies. And Chris, on behalf of the fossils here, we accept your vote. So if anybody has any questions for Chris? Seeing none, thank you very much, Chris. Chris has been an extremely effective president and ambassador for the county of Renfrew and all of our communities. He could be quite selfish in his presentation and talk exclusively of his area or of his business, but he's very knowledgeable of every business across the county, every activity. You see Chris at virtually all 12 corners of the county of Renfrew on a regular basis. Always effusive, always happy, willing to share information, passing your cards. You must go through a many cards a year in terms of passing them out and sponsors any number of events. So thank you very much, Chris, on behalf of our community for your efforts.
Thank you, Reeve. It comes easy, and I'll see you on Friday.
Yes, yes. Chris, I've been to 6 places on Friday. I can remember I committed to something with you. Thank you. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. We also have to remember that Chris is a big TV star now.
Yes, he is.
Now?
Hollywood Squares reruns? Mr. Hutton, correspondence, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. All correspondence has been forwarded to the applicable committee.
Thank you. And we'll move to finance and admin, please.
If it is all right with you, Mr. Warden, I would like to defer to my vice chair. I was not in attendance at FNA this month.
Thank you, Councilor Love, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warden. Members of County Council, we, your Finance and Administration Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Under information, number 1, council remuneration. Number 2, financial information return award. The County of Renfrew is one of 15 winners of the 2015 FIR award. The award recognizes staff's contribution to timely, reliable, and accurate financial information submission. Congratulations to Mr. Foss and his staff on a job well done. Other recipients of the award included Brunel and Doc Raglan, Horton, Whitewater Region, and Madawaska Valley. Number 3 is Malware Bytes. Information technology staff will be installing Malware Bytes software on all county laptops, including those provided to elected officials. The software will help block malware, virus, and ransomware infections. IT staff will make arrangements with county councilors to install the software before and after regularly scheduled meetings. Number 4, Ontario County elected officials remuneration and compensation surveys for your information. Number 5, the AMCTO Municipal Administration Program. Renfrew County's Human Resources Department received approval from AMCTO MCO to host the municipal administration program here at the County Administration Building. Mr. Bruce Beakley, our Director of Human Resources, will instruct and deliver the course. The 2-year course will be open to municipal professionals from all Eastern Ontario municipalities in Zone 6, and the County of Renfrew is currently the only municipality offering this program in-house. Number 6 is media relations. Number 7 is funding. There's information being provided on the new Celebrate Ontario funding program. The deadline for submissions is November 8th, and Mr. Garber's assistance is available to all lower tier municipalities. Under bylaws, number 8, we have Labor Relations Ontario Works Division decertification. Resolution number FA-CC-16-10-114. Moved by chair, seconded by committee. The County Council approved the addition of the position of Ontario Works Agent into Group 6 of the non-union wage grid, and the position of Ontario Works Customer Service Representative in Group 3 of the non-union wage grid, and further that a revised employment bylaw number 1 be adopted at this session of County Council. Number 9 is the bylaw to appoint a clerk. Resolution number FA-CC-16-10-117. Moved by chair, seconded by committee, that a bylaw to appoint a clerk be adopted at this session of County Council, appointing Mr. W. James Hutton as clerk of the County of Renfrew, effective immediately. Number 10, Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund formula-based component. Resolution number FA-CC-16-10-118. Moved by chair, seconded by committee. The County Council pass a bylaw to authorize the County of Renfrew to enter into an agreement with the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs for the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund formula-based component, and that the warden and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the County of Renfrew. All of which is respectfully submitted by Jennifer Murphy, Chair, and committee members Donahue, Emo, Love, Miller, Reinwald, Street, and Bisness-Moore. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments, questions, concerns from members of council on item number 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5. I would encourage you to get this information to your staff as quickly as possible. It's a very effective way of retaining staff and working on your succession planning initiatives at your home municipality. The course is interesting and it's very informative. I was successful when I took it about 6 or 7 years ago, and just lucky I had a hot pen when I was going through the exam, so it did all the work. But people with a lot more talent than myself do much better. So you should take a serious look at it. It's a good investment. It's $1,800 roughly, I believe, for the 4 sessions, and I think it will quickly help you determine who has the ability to move through your municipal ranks to administrative positions. Councillor Duncan?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. You reminded me also, I spoke with the clerk of IMS, probably Annette Lewis, on this too, and heretofore this has been a self-guided study at home. And one thing that hadn't even occurred to me that she was quite enthusiastic about is that this now adds an element of undertaking this course of study with colleagues and peers, and that element has been absent in the previous means of acquiring these designations, and that would be a significant enhancement of doing this study on site.
Yes, and it's not limited to your admin staff. Anybody on your staff, whether they come from your roads division or in our instance Ontario Work or Ontario Works or Social Services or alternate programs, it allows greater flexibility. So yes, that's very true. That's one benefit. And I know when I was doing it on my own, my viewpoint was quite different from some of the other people when I handed in my written work, and I would get lots of questions back on it. So it's, I think that a hidden benefit that I hadn't considered. Thank you. Item number 6, 7, item 8, item 9, 10, report as a whole. A mover, please. Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Gibson, your hand? Was it up? Okay, thank you. You've heard the report. You've heard the discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? None. It's carried. Thank you, Council. And we'll move to operations, please. And Councillor Dunn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We, your Operations Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Item number 1 is the aggregate resources fee received by the County of Renfrew from various bits of quarries scattered throughout the county. Item number 2, as Council will be aware, we have brought to their attention that we are still seeking input, documentation with respect to the fire communication study. If you have already, if your community, if your municipality has already submitted, please disregard the hectoring. If it has not, we urge you to please do so. Item number 3 is the monthly treasurer's report and departmental variance reports. Item number 4, the monthly project status report. As you know, most of the projects are wrapping up as the construction season is rapidly approaching its end. Resolutions. Item number 5, resolution number OPCC 16-10-68. Moved by chair, seconded by committee, that the services of Global Public Affairs be engaged to assist in securing funding for the County Road 51, that is Petawawa Boulevard expansion project, subject to a maximum fee amount of $25,000. And you will note the background in a previous resolution adopted in April 31st rather of this year. Bylaws number 6, resolution number OP-CC-16-10-69. Moved by chair, seconded by committee, that this committee recommend to County Council that a bylaw be passed to dedicate parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on reference plan 49R-15213 as part of the public highway. I remind council from time to time, we seem to have these somewhat legacy issues where T's were not fully crossed or I's fully dotted at some time in the past, and over time we are attempting to correct and remedy those situations, and this is one of those situations. All of which is respectfully submitted by myself as chair and committee members Emo, Farr, Gruntz, Kingsbury, Murphy, and Beckett.
Thank you. Comments, questions, concerns from members of council on item number 1? Item number 2. I can say the town of Renfrew was complaining the representative wasn't pushing them hard enough to send this, so I changed that around with the deal we get from the town in a little while, very soon. Item number 3. Item number 4. Item number 5. Councillor Sweet, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Warden. Yes, I obviously am going to support this recommendation that's in front of us, and if I could, I'd like to perhaps give a little bit of history and background on this particular project for the benefit of those who were not in the chambers going back to when this initiative took place. In 2007, that's 10 years ago, an environmental assessment was put in place and paid for by the town of Petawawa and the county of Renfrew. Some $75,000 was spent on that particular environmental assessment. At that time, Petawawa Boulevard 10 years ago was without a doubt the busiest highway within the county of Renfrew. The argument that I'm going to present with in support of this particular initiative is that things have changed in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, there has been approximately about 1,000 soldiers that have come onto the base through the CSAR Regiment and 450 Squadron, along with something like 750 spouses and dependents, an additional 1,750 individuals. There was gridlock 10 years ago, and there's gridlock here, even worse today. The process was finished in 2012, but was not passed and endorsed by the minister until 2014 because of a bump up that was required by 2 business people and they held off that bump up to the stage 1. And in fact, in 2014, the minister signed off on that to move this project ahead. I've been talking with the garrison commander on this particular situation. In fact, I've talked with 6 base commanders on this, and it's number one quality of life issue, trying to get on and off that garrison on a daily basis. You only have to try to get off the base at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I think for anyone who's gone on to that base, it is just brutal, to say the least. Similarly at lunchtime and similarly during the morning. In the absence of the Trans-Canada Highway, which I think we all agree, even though we made a valiant effort to try and 4-lane that as a back door into the garrison, that's not going to happen, I don't believe, in my lifetime, my grandchildren's lifetime, maybe my great-grandchildren's lifetime, and even beyond that. So there's something that we have to do here. One of the challenges that I see is talking to the garrison commander. They're prepared to inject funds into this project, but they're not prepared to go forward until they find out what it is that they are going to spend that money on. And so we have to move forward somewhere and do something about this particular situation. It's been on the books, as I say, for close to 10 years. The $19 million that you see there is probably low, and I don't know how we will finance this, but it's absolutely essential that we do something to clean up that situation on the boulevard. My concern at this point in time going forward, and I'm pleased to see that they're putting this in place to try and assist, to try and get funding. Somewhere shortly, the federal and provincial government will make a decision for the province of Ontario with regard to this funding that is in place or being announced by the federal government. How that will flow, we are not sure in terms of percentages that will be allocated by the province to the municipalities, etc., etc. And it would be a shame if we are not in a position to move forward and access some of that funds, because I don't think that if we miss out on this particular situation, I think it'll be a long while before we could ever get that type of money from the federal government, the province of Ontario, to move forward in this particular situation. This will require a partnership on all parts, including the town, including the county, the province, and of course the federal government and the Department of National Defence in order to make this a reality. So I'm going to support this, and I hope that members of council will support this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McKay, please.
I'm going to ask forward to that. Last winter, I added an hour to my time to come to county council to pick up something in Petawawa. I got to county council an hour late for the particular meeting because I sat in that gridlock. I couldn't go forward, I couldn't go backwards, I couldn't get out. It was just a waiting game. So if that happens every day, then I understand your concern. So I wanted to bring that forward because I actually experienced it and sat in the parking lot for a long period of time.
Thank you. My comments I've made on a number of occasions, and I too have sat and inched my way forward. And without setting myself up as a target for pursuit by the OPP, I'm using my hands-free option. I did a lot of work while I was getting off the base one day. I think it was an hour and a half getting away from a function on the far side. And yes, this is a good step towards ensuring that we can pull together all the partners. We will be targeting infrastructure and MTO and the innovation ministries at the provincial level. We've already started some discussions with them. Treasury Board, we've had some discussion with as well, and we'll circle back to start stitching all those things together. And if I agree and understand the garrison's reluctance or inability to be able to put a price tag and a target on where they're willing to invest at this point, and we're going to try and clear that up a little bit so that we can factor in their contribution into what will eventually be the final price for the project. Okay, moving on, we'll move to item 6, questions, comments, concerns from council. The report as a whole. please?
So moved, Mr. Ward.
You've heard the report, and you've heard the discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, none, it's carried. Thank you, council. We'll move to DP, please, and Councillor Sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Warman, members of County Council. We, as Development Property Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Information items, item number 1, you can find that tracker information on page 80 of our report. Rural Economic Development, the suspension, the RED program has been supported by East Ferris. Item number 3 is the Certified Industrial Sites program in the province of Ontario. That was announced by Minister Brad Douglas at the end of the conference, and it speaks to fast-tracking some of the facilities that the province will then be able to assist in promoting throughout Ontario. And you see some of the costs have been upgraded to a maximum of $50,000. It's a good program, and in fact, Eastern Ontario was the benefactor of one of those down along the 401. A 300,000 square foot facility was built as a result of this being put in place. So we're very positive about that. Item number 4 is the Minister of Tourism and sports letter from the Premier advertising or promoting culture, sports and tourism within the province of Ontario. Item number 5, you can see the Ottawa Valley Recreation Trail. We applied for Canada 150 funding. Unfortunately, you see there that the county has received notice that in fact we were not successful in that. However, having said that, we will continue to move forward and taking a look at it with Mr. Barber to see what other options will be available for funding there. Item number 6 is the Ontario Provincial Police Facility, and tabled as the project, and you can see that on page 83 as far as an update is concerned. Item number 7 is the Ottawa Valley Recreation section name. Mr. Warden, I would respectfully request that item number 7 be removed from the report and dealt with as a separate item. And for that, I need a motion, or you would need a motion to remove that and deal with it separately.
Yes.
I can make that motion.
Okay, seconder? Okay, Councillor Kingsbury? Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move. Item number 8 is resolutions. Resolution number DPCC 161071. Moved by the chair, seconded by committee and county council, support the resolution of the city of Belleville as amended, whereas Ontario grown crops, soybean and wheat crops generate $9 billion in economic output and are responsible for 40,000 jobs in the province of Ontario. Whereas Ontario farmers are stewards of the land and understand the importance of pollinators to our environment and ecosystem, and whereas the province of Ontario is implementing change to Regulation 6309, and that will prevent any certified crop advisor from carrying out a pest assessment if they receive financial compensation from a manufacturer or retailer of a Class 12 pesticide, and whereas Ontario 538 certified crop advisors who are capable of and willing to conduct pest assessments will be reduced to 80 from the proposed changes to the definition of professional pest advisors, and that be implemented in August 2017. And whereas the reduction in CCAs would force corn and soybean farmers to terminate the relationships that they have built with experts that understand their unique crop requirements, soil types and field conditions, placing undue delays on planting crops. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of Municipality Corporation of the County of Renfrew supports the efforts of member of Provincial Parliament for Huron Bruce to eliminate barriers to employment opportunities for CCAs and allow Ontario farmers the freedom to engage in business with the expert of their choice, and further that the province of Ontario consult with farmers and agribusiness industries, the buyers and producers of crop and pest management services and products, and further that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to all members of Provincial Parliament, municipalities and association of members municipalities of Ontario. Under item number 9, lease with snowmobile clubs, which is bylaw resolution number DPCC 161074, moved by the chair, seconded by committee, that the county of Renfrew into a short-term lease with the Keaton Snowmobile Club and Snow Country Snowmobile Association for a period of 5 months from the first day of December 2016 until the 13th day of April 2017. Resolution number DPCC 161077, moved by the chair, seconded by committee, that the county of Renfrew enter in a short-term lease with the Missing Lane Snowmobile Club and Snow Country Snowmobile Association for a period of 5 months from the first day of December 2016 until the 13th day of April 2017. Let me just say the Keaton Club is an existing lease that we're just renewing as we go forward. The other leases are new to this, but they are short-term leases. I want to make it clear that this is not a wholesale switch from what the existing trails are onto the CP rail line. Everything that is requested will come through the CP Advisory Committee and from there to DMP and from there to County Council. All of which is respectfully submitted by myself as chair and committee members Doncaster, Elon, Gibson, McKay, Miller, and Peckett.
Thank you, Chair. Members of council, comments, questions, concerns. Item number 1. Item number 2. You will soon be getting a letter, if you haven't already gotten it, from Minister Leal. In 2 conversations with him recently, he has indicated that the RED program is not dead, and they've heard the comments from communities about rolling the granting section that allowed municipalities to work on their downtown corridors or whatever they wanted to use the monies for in terms of planning. Those are rolling to the innovation side of it. So they're about to, I think, announce a retool RED program. I'm not aware of the details to the far I'm comfortable telling you what I think they're going to be. But he does indicate that early in the year or late this fall, meaning the next week or 2, you should get a new RED program with the criteria forwarded to your municipalities for consideration. They indicate that we'll all like it, but we'll wait and see. Item number 3. Item 4. Sorry, Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Warden. I don't know about anybody else in this chambers, but I am really offended by the 3rd bullet. Preserving our history and stories, and let's just slip this in so nobody notices. Support for the climate change action plan. I have to ask myself, what is that statement doing here? I really take offense at this. It's almost as though the provincial ministries are trained in this system of just slipping something in so that's on notice by people, and I just want to state that objection for the record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 5. Item 6. Item 8. Okay, we're just making sure that I didn't act improperly. Item number 7, I didn't need to have a motion. It essentially just needs to be a request. And so I erred in asking for a motion. So if any member under, I think it's 53 or 73D of our procedural bylaw can request that it can be extracted from the report. So I didn't need a motion, it's just a request. So my apologies for the confusion. Item number 8. Sorry, Councillor Dunnigan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. This might seem, this particular resolution to support a resolution from Bill that is somewhat close to me as in my other guise. I am a farmer, and so I did do a little bit of research in the background of this particular legislation, and I just thought I would like to provide a little bit of information where the particular, the specifics of this may not necessarily have a significant impact in my fellow councillors' communities. It is the process that I think is particularly bewildering. So, as a start, there's been a great deal of discussion, and I don't wish to repeat that discussion over the effects that neonicotinoid-treated seeds may have on the bee community. However, this particular legislation where it certainly seems to be overreach and regulatory creep. In the original regulation, which is, I believe, 063-9, and I've researched these and I have copies for any of the councillors that may wish to see them. Initially, a certified crop advisor was recognized as anybody that met the certain standards, and these were not simply applications to be recognized. There were exams to be written from the American Association of Agronomists, or even to the extent that the director may recognize experience in lieu of. That this was not simply sending away for a card to stick into your wallet, that there was a certain requirement to be met. And in the initial regulation, that extended to those that were employed by seed dealers, by feed dealers, by businesses that do recommend pesticides for all of those classes, right up until the time that the neonic was classified in a new category unto itself as a class 12. So there has always been a relationship between the farming community and the certified crop advisors, and you will note from this that the vast majority are those that are employed by commercial enterprises. That is the natural migratory process for those that have this certification. And there has always been that trust established between the individual farmer and recognizing that these were paid by someone. But over time, a farmer is going to develop a relationship that they trust that this certified crop advisor is adhering to the code of ethics of that organization and not overselling them. So in the amended regulation, they are now specifically identifying class 12 as now unworthy of that we can no longer now accept that these commercially employed certified crop advisors are necessarily acting in an unbiased fashion. And I believe that is beyond the pale that next step has been taken, regardless of where any individual farmer may stand on the issue of the neonic. I think this is unwarranted sledgehammer approach, and absolutely endorse this regulation, or sorry, this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I can assure you that Councillor Dunn was accurate in his first statement. He is a farmer. One day he asked me for a meeting and took me in his truck out to feed cattle, so I know he's a farmer because the cattle don't seem to recognize him in his truck. Item number 9, please. Any comments, questions? Mover, please. So with the exception of item number 7.
Yes.
So moved. You've heard the report, you've heard the discussion. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? None is carried. And we'll move back to item number 7, which stands alone.
Thank you,
Councillor Sweet.
Mr. Warden. I'll defer if I could to the CAO.
Thank you. Mr. Hutton, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, Chair Sweet, members of County Council. Just a little bit of background on item number 7. You may recall at an earlier meeting of County Council a couple of months ago, the naming of the trail, the Renfrew County section of the trail came forward as an information item, not as a resolution. There was a lot of discussion at that point regarding consultation with the Algonquins of Ontario and the prematurity of it. And it went back, County Council was informed at that meeting, as I said, there was no resolution, that a resolution would come back from the CP Advisory Committee, Ad hoc Committee, to BNP, to County Council. On October 11th this month, that did occur. The resolution was brought forward from CNP Advisory Committee to the BNP Committee, and that resolution said that the Renfrew County section of the trail should be named the Algonquin Trail. During DNP Committee meeting on the 11th, there was a request to table that motion before the actual motion to name the trail was duly moved and seconded. Tabling motion, as many of you will know, is not debatable, and the motion was carried. However, it should have been ruled out of order because there was no motion on the floor at the time to table. the meeting went on. So no discussion ever occurred on the actual motion that was put forward. In council, and looking at our procedural bylaw after the meeting, I consulted with the solicitor that I use on procedural issues, and he indicated that the county council should be made aware of the information that went to committee, that it could be voted on separately, and that the proper discussion would be that to bring the motion forward, and then anybody who wanted to table that motion again would have an opportunity to do so at county council. Would have to be handled accordingly. In other words, there would be a vote on that tabling motion if it comes forward, and depending on the outcome of that tabling motion, then the motion that was brought forward could then be discussed and dealt with by county council. So I just wanted to make county council aware of that. I had discussions with the chair and the warden on the procedural issue that happened. It came quickly at DMP and caught a number by surprise. So that is the discussion that I've had with the chair, the warden, and a solicitor that I use on procedural issues. And that's why the information item is in the report. It also is the fact that county council is the final arbiter of matters that come out of all committees. So I'll turn it back to the warden at that point, at this point.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Wisniewski, please.
So if a motion is put on the floor to table, then we're not allowed to discuss it even today, right?
That's correct. If there's a motion to deal with first, then there's a motion to table. The motion to table is not debatable. It has to be dealt with, and then you go back to the motion depending on the outcome of the table motion.
Both Councillor Kingsbury and then it was Councillor Doncaster.
Does there have to be an explanation as to why it's being tabled?
There can be an explanation in the motion itself, motion to table because of their reason, but other than that, then it's not debatable.
And Councillor Doncaster.
I've just clarification. The original motion was put forward in the report, in the DMP report. Does that not constitute the motion being on the floor?
No, we asked for a mover and seconder on all reports on all those motions as they come forward, and it just didn't happen.
And Councillor Wisniewski.
I apologize for the second question, just for clarification. So right now, what's before us is the motion that sits DPC 161073. That's the motion that we're going to be asked to vote on. Is that correct?
If I may,
sure. Go ahead.
No, there's actually no motion right now. That's an information item. There is an opportunity, according to our procedure, if a motion comes forward. Right now, we have no motion to deal with.
But don't we have to vote on that issue? Because it's been removed.
Yes, if a motion comes forward, it will be as part of this item.
Councillor Sweet.
Thank you. Maybe this will help. I caused all this by mistake. I was taken just a little bit aback by the events that happened, so I take responsibility for that as chair, and I thought I was conducting the meeting in an appropriate manner. And obviously there was no motion duly moved and seconded, so there was nothing to table. That's the issue here. However, I do have a motion in front of me right now, Mr. Warden, if you wish, and this may help going forward.
Please.
It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Donahue. The County Council approved the name of the Renfrew County section of the Ottawa Valley Trail and be named the Algonquin Trail. That's the motion.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Discussion, please. Councillor Doncaster.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Once again, I wish to point out that to date, I'm unaware of any substantial or meaningful consultation taking place with the 10 Algonquin communities included in the area that the CP Rail corridor covers. While the proposed name is one step in recognizing our area's rich Algonquin heritage, I think it falls far short of what I feel consultation means. I would encourage all members of County Council to vote against this motion until we have meaningful discussions with the 10 Algonquin communities in this area. We have seen correspondence from the province and the launch of the cultural tourism strategy. We also see in the DMP meeting minutes today with reference to the mandate letter for the Minister of Tourism, and one of the points about building partnerships and engaging Indigenous communities. And I think those are all important factors that we need to take into consideration with this issue, and probably with a number of other issues when it comes to consultations with the Algonquins. Thank you.
Thank you. I can assure you, I spoke with Chief Whiteduck this morning. We were discussing last week the AIP, and I had some questions about, so we called him this morning. So I specifically had taken notes from your last presentation, and I asked him a couple of questions. And what I asked him was, if County Council proceeds with naming this Algonquin Trail, is that acceptable to your community? And he said yes, they were quite excited by it. I asked him about the Algonquins of Ontario, and he said there has been discussions there led by Chair Sweet with staff and with members of the Algonquins of Ontario, and that they too had the expectation that this would proceed at some point. I asked him again in terms of what level of involvement they were interested in, and he said that once we have a business plan and a view of where we're going with the operation of the trail, they would be happy to meet with us, meaning the Pikwakanagan Nation, First Nation, as well as the Algonquins of Ontario, and that they weren't in any hurry to do that because it was going to take us some time. They were aware of our public consultation process and expected we would be coming back to them with something, and that they would be engaged at that point. So that's all, that's as current as 9:15 this morning on the way up. Thank you. Councillor Sweet, and then Robinson.
Yeah, just to elaborate, I've been dealing with the individual who's the planning person for the Algonquins, and I've been dealing with them for 3 or 4 years. This is not something that just happened yesterday or last month or a month and a half ago or 2 months ago. This is something that we've been talking to the Algonquins for the last 3 or 4 years. They're quite familiar with the process that I brought into place with this. And in fact, I was not able to bring to the table because there was the motion that was put forth incorrectly did not allow any discussion on it. I had a discussion the previous morning with the chief planning individual who has invited me to sit down with a member of the band council to discuss this particular situation. They're very excited about this. They want to even take a look at perhaps realigning some of the requests as far as land is concerned to more keep in line with the trail itself, and that a full presentation by myself and our development, our CP development team to the entire band council, to them, because they want to know exactly what it is from Smith Falls all the way to Manitoba. They are absolutely very, very pleased, and the county of Renfrew sees this going forward as a very positive step, recognizing the land that goes through the treaty situation. So that at no time has this, and it should not come as a surprise to anyone. I've talked about this for 3 or 4 years. And if you go back into the minutes, you'll see the name has been mentioned on a number of occasions, including discussions that I've had with the partners in Lanark, who decided that they don't want to go that way, but this is something that has been on the books and discussed for, I'm going to say, 3 or 4 years. It's been open and transparent as far as I'm concerned with the Algonquins.
I'm sorry, I should add too that that was part of the text exchange with Chief Whiteduck the last couple of weeks, was trying to pick a date. He's been involved with some negotiations that we just heard about. They're over 200 years old and hasn't been as available as he wanted to be. Councillor Robinson, you were next, please. And then Disneski Moore, and then Robin.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and I do thank Mayor Sweet for the background. It's very, very important to all of us. I actually don't have a problem with the word Algonquin.
wondering about, if there's been consideration about trail. And I'm just coming from a marketing sort of approach. If the Ottawa Valley Recreation Trail is marketed as one trail, when you see something that says Algonquin Trail, will that be confusing to potential tourists wondering, is this a separate trail? And I don't have a good enough suggestion for changing what the word would be other than trail, route, I guess. But I'm just wondering if any discussion like that's taking place.
Councillor Street, please.
I'll say through you, Mr. Warren, to Councillor Robinson, we, as you probably know, travelled extensively in Ontario to look at trails, including the Great Bruce Trail, the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance, and down to the Lake Shore, etc. All of those main trails, the Great Bruce Trail, have subtitle trails. I talk about the A.Y. Jackson Trail, talk about the Tom Thompson Trail, it's all part and parcel of that, but it's all advertised as the Great Bruce Trail. But if you want to, you go onto the Tom Thompson Trail, you go to the A.Y. Jackson Trail or whatever, and similarly you see similar type trail names in the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance and so forth. So it's not uncommon to have that type of situation. I think it's a benefit, to be honest with you. Two things. One, the Ottawa Valley is well known, and we don't have to promote the Ottawa Valley. The Algonquin Trail, or the Algonquin Park in the Algonquin area, is another one that's easily identified. If we lose something else, then I would be concerned about that. But I think you get a double hit in terms of awareness of where this trail may be.
Thank you. Councillor Rudensky, Moore, and Reinwald, please.
Thank you. Could I ask for a recorded vote on this, please?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hutton, does that preclude any further debate? I can't remember the, no, it doesn't. Perfect. Okay. Councillor Reinwald, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that I felt that the naming of the trail was quite appropriate because of the not only the Algonquins of Ontario, but to run parallel to Algonquin Park, which I thought was kind of great in this way. So from my perspective, I thought that was a good name.
Thank you, and I will go with Councillor Packett and Councillor Doncaster.
Thank you, Warden. From what I'm hearing this morning is, and I guess maybe the question should go to Councillor Sweets, does that preclude the sections of the trail that go through the different townships from being named differently as a section of the Algonquin Trail?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, I think what Councillor Packett is asking is, should there be a kilometer, for the sake of argument, you want to name the Jones Trail as part of the Algonquin Trail. He's asking if by doing that today, that precludes breaking the trail down into smaller sections with different names. Is that what you're asking?
Right.
Thank you.
That has never been considered by the CP Advisory Committee. No, I have to say no. That would have to go back and we'd have to talk about that. I doubt that makes any sense, but nonetheless, that's my personal thought. But you know, if that's a request, then we can bring that forward as we would bring forward any other request. But I don't see the benefit of that. To be honest with you, then we're getting into creating all kinds of different trails, and we talk about confusion. I would suggest that would certainly lead to confusion, but that would be something that if this chamber decides I would like to see us talk about that, we could certainly do that and bring back some recommendations as well. But it's not being discussed.
Thank you. Councillor Doncaster, please.
Mr. Gordon, I think that I just want to clarify a few things. I agree with a lot of things that people are saying, and personally, I agree with the name, the Algonquin Trail. I think it's a fantastic name. I think it takes a step forward in recognizing that there's Algonquin heritage that we're all very well aware of. The point that I want to reiterate one more time is the fact it's not the name. I agree with the name. It's the lack of consultation with the 10 Algonquin communities, not just the Algonquins of Pequot but and Mayor Sweet said, we're going to sit down in the future. We're going to talk about access points and other planning things, or you know, Algonquin heritage sites along it, or potentially, or whatever that happens to be. I'm just, what I'm trying to say is that we shouldn't be naming the trails before we have these meaningful consultations with the town and Algonquin communities. Just wanted to clarify that point.
Thank you, and I mean this with all respect, that nobody ever assumed that you were against the name of it and that your passion was directed to process. So I just want to clarify that with you. Thank you. Councillor Sweet?
Yeah, just to clarify something, the gentleman that I'm talking to represents all 10 communities. He is the person that represents not just the Algonquins of Pickwapic, he represents all 10 communities in Ontario. So, in my mind, I've consulted with 10 of them, not just one.
Councillor Gibson and then staff, please.
Thank you, Warden Beeman. I don't have any problem with a sub-name for the Ottawa Valley Recreation Trail. What I do have a problem with is leaving County Council open to criticism. We're halfway through our public consultations. I don't know if we're telling the public at these consultations that it is our intention as a county council to name the trail the Algonquin Trail, our section of it. I think if we go ahead and pass this resolution, that we are leaving ourselves open to public criticism, that the public wasn't consulted, even though maybe they don't read newspapers, maybe they don't pay attention. However, we will leave ourselves open to that criticism, and for that reason, I will move that we table this until after the public consultations are held. Thank you.
Okay, so we would need a seconder for that motion. And that would preclude any further discussion on the naming until we deal with the motion to table. So Councillor Doncaster, you're seconding the tabling motion. So with that, I'm going to call the vote on the tabling motion, the motion to table. I'm sorry. I don't know that. I'm sorry, Councillor Kingsbury, I don't think I can entertain any discussion on it. Okay, you're going to ask for a recorded vote on this? Okay, thank you. So with that, it's going to be a recorded vote on tabling. Yes means we're going to table, no means we're not going to table. Thank you. Mr. Hutton, please.
Thank you very much. So,
I'm sorry, it's a recorded vote.
Yes, it's a recorded vote. Thank you. And so for the motion to table, I'll ask for. If you're in favor of the motion, for. If you're against the motion, against. I have a new electronic table here for recorded votes, so bear with me. I was hoping to avoid 2 votes today, but here I go. So, Councillor Kingsbury called for the recorded vote. So, Councillor Kingsbury, for or against?
Against.
Councillor Doncaster, for. Councillor Donahue,
Against.
Warden Emo,
Sorry, against.
Councillor Farr,
Against.
Councillor Gibson,
For.
Councillor Grunts,
Against.
Councillor Love,
Against.
Councillor McKay,
Against.
Councillor Miller, Councillor Murphy,
Against.
Councillor Peckett,
For.
Councillor Reinwald,
Against.
Councillor Robinson,
Against.
Councillor Stack,
Against.
Councillor Sweet,
Against.
and Councillor Wisniewski Moore.
Against.
Thank you very much, County Council. The motion fails. 23 for, 156 against.
Okay, thank you. So in accordance with the procedural bylaw, I can now go back to the order of speakers on the original motion and Reeve Stack, you're up first. Councillor Stack.
Jog the memory here a bit. Just a couple comments on the risk of some backlash. I mean, the only comment I can make on that, out of the 3 meetings that I've attended, 2 of them, there hasn't been discussion around that. It's all been positive input, including up to last night in Renfrew. I guess what I want to suggest here, if it's possible, to maybe appease some of this, is that maybe Mayor Sweet is the chair of the CPR committee, to actually get some communication with the Algonquins, formalizing that connection in terms of communication. Even if there's a letter written between us that says that's the point of communication, or that would guarantee the feedback and flow of information to the 10 Algonquin parties. And they just make some of the, then us as the council more comfortable going forward with that contact.
So just to make sure I understand, after today's decision, your suggestion is we make sure that this communication be forwarded through the Algonquins of Ontario to all 10 communities?
No, what I'm suggesting is that the contact we have now and who we've been communicating with, that we can formalize, through a letter that is the contact. The paper trail.
Before we vote.
No, I'm saying that after.
Okay.
Okay, so, thank you.
It's a paper trail.
Yes, thank you. And I saw Councillor Donahue next, and I didn't see any hand after that. Oh, Councillor Kingsbury.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. With respect to my colleague, Councillor Gibson, certainly it is an aspirational goal to set policy that is immune from criticism. In theory, I'm fairly certain it's almost never going to be realized. From my own perspective, I'm thrilled actually to a small little piece which is simply seconding the motion, but I have played very little role in the acquisition of this trail. Hopefully we'll play a fairly significant role in developing the management of, but it's an actual honor to move that this be the name. And I'll draw on the over 400 years of history of the first European who battled up the waters of the Ottawa River, and through the benevolence of the local Indigenous community that we now know as an Algonquin, was able to map out or begin the process that has led to us being here. And since that time, I'd like to consider that there's been a partnership, and I'm thrilled for that partnership to now be formalized and realized, not least of which is the MOU that was recently signed between the Algonquin and the County of Renfrew. And I'm speaking very much in favor of this, and it's my honor to move the resolution so naming the trail.
Thank you. And Councillor Kingsbury, please.
Well, mine is along similar lines. I think this is showing huge respect for the people that first inhabited this earth and North America as a whole. I think they came across on the ice bridge to populate our areas, and some of them stayed here, some of them moved on down south. When we start our meetings in the morning, we pay respect to the people who this land belongs to. And I think this is just going one step beyond that and saying we want to pay further respect to you people. I think that we're all connected here in some way, because as we came across from Europe and whatnot, I think there was a lot of intermarriages and that took place. So I think if we all look at our heritage here, I think we all have a little bit of a lump from some nation or whatever in all of us. So I think as far as we're concerned, I think as far as I'm concerned, I think it just progresses that respect that we're passing on to them, and I'm full support of making that trail the Algonquin.
Thank you. And Councillor Staff, please.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry, with that, probably that'll be the last speaker, unless anybody has any burden issue to add to it.
I just want to make a statement that I think it's obvious, and Councillor Doncaster has stated it, it's probably very unanimous here that the name is in agreement. It was just the procedural process that was up, and that's why I made the suggestion I did.
Thank you. With that, we'd like to call a vote, and it's recorded. Mr. Hutton, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, members of the County Council. Mayor or Councillor Wisniewski-Moore.
For.
Yes, actually, I'm going to go back on it. I'm going to read the motion, and then I'm going to say for or against. The County Council approved that the name of the Renfrew County section of the Ottawa Valley Recreation Trail is Algonquin Trail. For or against? Councillor Wisniewski-Moore.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Doncaster. Opposed. Councillor Donahue.
For.
Warden Nemo.
For.
Councillor Farr.
For.
Councillor Gibson.
For.
Councillor Grunts.
For.
Councillor Kingsbury. 4. Councillor Love.
4.
Councillor McKay.
4.
Councillor Murphy.
4.
Councillor Beckett.
4.
Councillor Reinwald.
4.
Councillor Robinson.
4.
Councillor Stack.
4.
Councillor Sweet.
4.
Motion carries 172 to 7.
Thank you, council. With that, I'd like to thank you for your decorum in this discussion. All the points were valid and relevant to the decision. It reflects the diversity of our community. We're very fortunate to have, as many of you have noted, shared the land with our Algonquin friends and neighbors. I think this is a vital step forward in cementing that relationship, and so thank you for your sensitivity and your contributions to this decision. And with that, I'd like to break for lunch because I understand it's a hot lunch and it just arrived, so if we could be back here at 12:40, so that would be 20 to 1. I was doing missionary work. With that, thank you for your indulgence in waiting for me. With that, we'll move to Health Committee and Councilor Wisniewski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, members of County Council. We, your Health Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Information item number 1 is resident population. Number 2 is push for change. I think that was absolutely wonderful. And thank you to Brian for participating on behalf of Renfrew County. Then we have paramedics that were honored with exemplary service awards, and they were Mr. Gary Sutton, Mr. Andy Brown, and David Ostrowski got his 30-year service pin, and we did that at the Health Committee. I want to congratulate those 3 men. Number 4 is the Road to Mental Readiness, the training. Number 5 is the CCAC long-term care waitlist information, and I just want to speak to that. So we chatted about this at the Health Committee, and as you can see, there's a lot of clients out there that are waiting for a spot in one of our homes, and the committee asked that staff partner, so the paramedics are under Mike Nolan is going to work with Shelley Sheedy to look at what we could do to help that wait list. So maybe we could do something to keep those people at home longer. At any rate, the 2 staff have agreed to talk about a partnership, kind of looking at the Deep River example. You know, we give a little bit of care to people at home. They're able to stay at home longer, and maybe we can try to assist those people waiting at home. It must be really, really hard for seniors that are waiting to come into one of our homes. So I want to congratulate both Shelley and Mike for taking that project on, and for Mr. Hutton agreeing that maybe it's something that we can support. Next is the AMO, a seniors policy paper. Number 6 is the case mix index funding announcement. Number 7 is the inspection at the lodge. Number 8 is paint night at the lodge. Again, they do such wonderful things, both foundations, to help raise money for our clients. Number 9 is the resident fundraiser, Alzheimer's Society. Number 10 is CTV Canada in a Day video. We got to see it, absolutely wonderful. Number 11 is the Minister of Labor, the follow Minister of Labor inspection, sorry. I'm getting tired. Number 12 is the long-term care best practice secondment. And we want to congratulate Stephanie Kim on being asked to sit on that association and bringing the County of Renfrew message there. The next one is property development for the land to the manor. Number 14 is the Pinnacle Steering Committee. Number 15 is the foundation, another raising money there. It's just absolutely wonderful. So I congratulate again those both foundations. And part of that is another fundraiser is the Bowl-a-thon. And I'll tell you that I've submitted a team, and that is with the warden, Mayor Murphy, and Mayor Donahue. And probably we'll come in last like we did last year, but we do it with a smile. And it's trying to help raise money for the Bocher Manor and the people that live there. And all is respectfully submitted as by myself as chair, committee members Doncaster, Eamon, Kingsbury, Love, Robinson, and staff.
So that's next Sunday, right?
Yes, Mr. Warden, get your pledge sheet, get it going.
Got it. I asked her that yesterday when we were in the meeting. She was passing her sheet around, and I couldn't remember what it was, and I had to confess I hadn't started collecting funds yet, so I'll pass it. Questions from council on item number 1? Item 2, yes, congratulations to Deputy Chief Leahy and to the paramedic service for supporting this. Item number 3, again, congratulations to Mr. Sutton and Mr. Brown and Mr. Ostrowski for their achievements. We're very, very proud of them and the effort and commitment to their craft that they display on a regular basis. We're very fortunate. Number 4. Sorry, Councillor Dunn, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, probably to Mr. Knowlton, Chief of Paramedics. I noted the second paragraph, first line, regarding mental illness, PTSD, and occupational stress injuries are on the rise in emergency services. I'm curious if there's any sort of study or research into arriving at what's driving the increase.
Sure, thank you, through you, Mr. Warden. Related to paramedic and emergency services, claims related to mental illness, post-traumatic stress, and occupational stress, there's certainly a body of evidence that's growing. I don't have specific numbers for you, but much of this is quoted from Minister Flynn's work on First Responders First, where they report, for example, the incidence of suicide amongst first responders being 2 times that of the general public. Again, I'm not sure how concrete the science is behind these statements, but certainly anecdotally within the paramedic service and most recently related to the passing of legislation that makes claims for post-traumatic stress amongst first responders presumptive legislation. So it creates other triggers within the WSIB world and as well affords new treatments and a new level of attention related to occupational stress injuries specific to post-traumatic stress disorder or injury. Injury is the more contemporary term as of a few weeks ago. The prevalence of this issue, I think, has been really born out of the attempt to destigmatize mental illness in the community. We know the Bell Let's Talk campaign over the last few years that rode through Renfrew County, through to the efforts of Veterans Affairs and military members returning from service, and they're experiencing negative effects in terms of their mental health related to their occupation or their exposures. We've been very proactive here at the county in terms of embarking on conversations not only amongst staff but also under the leadership of the HR department, renegotiating our EAP program to ensure that there are programs in place for staff so that we can focus on resilience and prevention, no different than we do in the paramedic service at large. You know, we believe that occupational stress and post-traumatic stress is very real. We know that there's the potential for people to take advantage of that in a negative light. So I think the opportunity for us to ensure that our staff are able to focus on and provide the best service possible is about creating a culture that's accepting that mental illness is real, that they have the tools to be able to better self-manage, not only in times of crisis, but as occupational stress becomes cumulative, that it doesn't culminate in issues such as post-traumatic stress, and that we have the necessary language, process, and systems in place to support those staff long before presumptive legislation would ever be required. So a multi-pronged approach of, as is detailed in today's report, where we have sent some key staff to become trainers of this Road to Mental Readiness training, which is endorsed by the Canadian Forces and is being rolled out across Ontario in fulfillment of the First Responders First legislation. And then secondly, that organizationally we're taking steps both from the staff level up, because all of our staff this fall will receive 4 hours of training from those 2 staff members who have done the Train the Trainer program to underpin the shift in culture and the shift in language that's detailed for you in today's report. Human Resources has also facilitated a training as recently as yesterday with Queen's University in Chappelle around mental health leadership and what does it mean in the context of our own mission, vision, value statements as an organization, our code of conduct, as well as labor relations, attendance management, and so on. And then lastly, related to our EAP program, which is intended to be a bit of a pressure relief valve for staff, that it is appropriately aligned to provide both prevention response services and longer-term conduit for information so that individuals and I think Renfrew County as a whole is well positioned to be progressive and responsive to these issues.
Supplementary, Councillor Donahue, and then Acting Murphy.
Yeah, just supplementary, I'm just curious, there is an incredibly overdue acknowledgement that mental health is health. And at one time, hopefully soon, we can even stop distinguishing between health and mental health. And I'm just curious if that particular sentence in that paragraph, if it's reasonable to even suggest that perhaps in the coming out of the shadows, that perhaps the incidents of these are not so much on the rise, but the proper reporting and acknowledging is on the rise.
If I could, I think, based upon decades of stigma, perhaps a long legacy of a stigma, I'm not even sure you could put time to it, that not only are we starting to better understand mental health, psychology, psychiatry, but that it may well have been masked by other behaviors, other physical manifestations that have been reported but not truly been attributed to the root cause, which may be mental health. An easy example of that is someone with gastrointestinal issues, perhaps an ulcer. We want to treat that with antibiotics, but maybe it's what you go home to every day that's giving you the ulcer, not what's swirling around in your gut. Just to provide some levity. So while we're enhancing our sensitivity within the department, just to provide a little levity, because I think it's an important subject that you're absolutely correct. The physical manifestations of health have many root causes, and mental health, physical health are inextricable in many regards. But how we've reported them in the past may have been more attributable to physical manifestations versus that root cause. So I use that glibly, and I can put my own name to it if need be. But I think the concept being that we need to take a holistic approach, and that is under the stewardship of the CAO and the Human Resources Department. I can assure you that this corporation is putting its best foot forward on your behalf.
Thank you. Chief Nolan was talking about going home to my cooking. Everybody's gastrointestinal disorder spectrum. Councilor Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Actually, Councillor Donahue just sort of stole my point. I was happy that you used the word destigmatize, and it was interesting to read this report after Thanksgiving weekend, having a former Toronto police officer, a Toronto police officer and 2 firefighters at my house for Thanksgiving supper and talking about some of these things. And when I read this, I thought, boy, that sentence should actually read that all these things, reporting is on the rise, not that these issues are on the rise. And I will tell you, after, there was a lot of good discussion, a lot of laughter around the table, but it is the reason that a lot of older police officers have drinking problems, and I'm sure other emergency services. But it definitely, I think that it's not necessarily that PTSD is on the rise. It's that now people are saying, oh my goodness, I'm having trouble getting by. And I applaud this entire initiative. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. Any other comments? With that, we'll move to item number 5. Councillor Doncaster and then Love, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. With respect to this issue, item number 5, and I guess you can relate it back to item number 1 of the resident population on the wait list. Part of that discussion revolved around accessing funds, and was there capacity to build more long-term care beds, or was that the right approach, and things like that. I would point out that on the wait list at Worcester Manor of 154 on approximately 180 bed facility, Miramichi Lodge on the wait list of 227 with 165 or so beds. There's also North Renfrew Long-Term Care Center in Deep River with a wait list of 80 at a 20-bed home. So 4-fold wait list at that facility. And on top of that, a wait list of 38 on the Flex program, which is the aging at home program. So part of that discussion went around the aging at home program in North Renfrew area, Deep River, and the amount of funds that program is saving the healthcare system, and can we have the province has made it very clear that they're not putting more money into healthcare, but can those funds be reallocated from the healthcare system to aging at home programs or long-term care programs? And I think some lobbying of the provinces on our part to the province would be beneficial in that. Those stats that I give you, the numbers, that doesn't include any wait list, and I don't have the numbers on the Four Seasons Lodge, which is located at the hospital, which is another long-term care facility in Renfrew County. Funding is one issue. I think one thing that we have to get our heads around a little bit is that there is funding, I know, for the Aging at Home Flex program in Deep River. There is funding that program can access to expand that program outside of the 30 clients that they're dealing with today. However, one of the biggest issues is staffing, and they can't find enough staff to provide those services to the residents of that area, and probably in Renfrew County. So I think some thoughts have to go around our education system, and potentially some partnerships with the colleges of the world in this area to see if we can't foster more people getting into the education in the healthcare so that we can staff these programs moving forward. So I just wanted to make these comments to spread some awareness of those issues. Thank you.
Councillor Wojciechowski, and then we'll go to Councillor Love.
My question, I guess, is to Jim or Jeff. Do we still fund the nursing program at the college? We were trying to promote. No, we don't do that anymore?
No.
Okay. That was going to be my answer, but I guess I can't say that.
Thank you, Councillor Love, please. And sorry, Councillor Doncaster, real quick question. The staffing issue you identified, if you could send a little more detailed note on that, what I would be prepared to do would be to send a letter to Algonquin College identifying it as an issue and asking them how it fits in their new strategic plan. Thank you. Councillor Love, you've been quite patient.
Okay, no, certainly listening to some of the numbers that Councillor Doncaster has quoted out to you today. Now think about the fact that over the next 10 years, how many more people are going to need long-term care. And this is where, when Chair Wisniewski brought up this point, it certainly struck a chord with me, because this Chambers can't afford to have more bricks and mortar long-term care homes. Right? We're not going to build more homes, because what are we going to do with them when that baby boom, when that bubble goes through and we don't need them anymore? So when she brought up this idea of looking at ways to get our health services working together to provide programming, programming is something we can expand to meet a need, and then we can easily contract when we don't need it anymore to that extent. So I thought her idea was actually really wonderful, because we've got to get out in front of this so that we're ready. Because what are we going to do when we have maybe 1,000 people waiting and needing long-term care in this county? And so hopefully, if we can, if our staff, when they're working together, if we can find ways to, as Councillor Doncaster said, to divert funding that's going to some healthcare issues in certain directions now into this ability to get people able to be supported to age in place until they really, really need that bed in long-term care. That's going to help us to deal with this baby boom that's coming. So I think we're just at the very beginning of what hopefully will be a very fruitful conversation, and some good input coming back from our staff as to how we can potentially develop some programming to deal with what's coming.
Okay, thank you. Can I suggest then that maybe what we'd like to do is place this back on the agenda for the Health Committee, with the understanding that we may want to do some more research to firm up the existing numbers, because I noticed we didn't mention Valley Manor, and try and accumulate some good base data this year as to the waiting list. And then if there's any research partnerships or opportunities with the LIN for a partnership, maybe we could then talk about that, and that gives Chief Nolan and Ms. Sheedy the opportunity to say, in general terms, to potential partners, the county of Renfrew is very interested, and here's some things we can inject into the conversation. So maybe, that might be a suggestion for the chair for the next meeting or the next series of meetings. Thank you. You were offered a comment?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for all the comments. That's exactly what we need to do, and I'll tell you that if Mike and Shelley can't get any money out of the LIN, we'll never get it out of there. They're very successful in their attempts, and I think we have a good case to present that exactly what Mayor Councillor Love and Doncaster indicated. I mean, we need to put help out there. So I welcome the comments, and we'll definitely take them back. And I know that Mike and Shelley have both agreed to to work hard to present something to the committee for consideration. And I think they're already working on it, and I know they're busy, but they were both very, very in agreement that they'd be prepared to present something. So thank you for the comments to County Council.
Thank you. We'll move to item 6. And we'll move to second item 6, which is the Ministry of Health Long-Term Care Funding Index thingy. CMI. And then we'll move to number 7. Item 8. Item 9. Item 10. Item 11. Item 12. Congratulations to Ms. Kim on her comment. Again, anytime we can have staff acquire and then disseminate specialized information within an organization is always a benefit to us. So we're so glad she took advantage of that opportunity. Item 13 Anybody that was in Bocher Manor last night for the CP rail discussions noticed that the pavement is on that road, so I expect it'll be opening very quickly, which is tentatively called, or is going to be called Renfrew Health Village Lane. And so it should be open soonish, to my trained engineer's eye. That's sarcasm, don't worry. Item 14, Councillor Kingsbury, and then Ms. Nesky-Moore.
We were very fortunate at our last meeting for Mrs. Yanka to take us for a tour of these facilities. And I have to congratulate the whole team that was put together to put these together. They're fantastic. And I'm sure the residents, I think it was evident the day we were there, would use them quite a bit. It takes you back in time. I don't want to date myself, but I can recognize some of the stuff that's in these rooms. And I'm sure that they get great enjoyment of going into these rooms and using them. So to you and to your whole team, thank you very much for putting them together.
Thank you, Councillor Kingsbury. I can assure you, you're not dating yourself. I remember them. I'm only 55, so I'm 56, so what more could we ask for? Councillor Nesky-Moore, please.
Yeah, I was born in 56 too, so I remember that old wood stove. And I too want to congratulate the manor. I've been telling my council about this, and as I looked around the room and I told them about one of the rooms is built into a hunt camp. So the gentlemen there go in and have, reminisce about the hunting days and about the deer they shot and this kind of stuff. And I was telling my council, and I looked up and they all had tears in their eyes. And so we have to support those foundations because they create these kind of things for our residents. This is their home, and it absolutely, I looked around the room even at the health committee, and there's tears in the eyes of all of the county councillors sitting there. We're so proud that the foundation does this work with the staff. Amazing, amazing. And even as I'm speaking, I'm getting tears. That old wood stove, all those things brought memories even back for me. So it's so wonderful. And I want you to take that back to both foundations, the Lodge and the Bocher Manor. What they do for our residents is absolutely something we can never ever thank them enough. So, and your staff, the ideas, the work they put into it, they donated their personal items from their homes to make it, look like the thing that it should. And I mean, that's people that actually care. So congratulations and thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Hunt and I had an advance preview of it, I guess about 3 months ago. We were there for something like that, and we were taking it around. And again, the authenticity of the other rooms is quite impressive. It was more so for me because they're from my generation, and whereas Jim came from suburbia in Merrickville and Marble and Winchester, so he was quite more current in wood stoves and stuff than I was. So it was more of a museum trip for him than an actual resuming his childhood. Anyway, so in all seriousness, thank you to the staff. It is a beautiful concept and a nice, warm, comforting feeling for the residents. I've actually spoken to a couple over the last few times I've been in, and they're very enthusiastic about it and very possessive of it too. So that's good to see. You're not going to see any vandalism or spray paint on the walls there. So with that, we'll move on to item number 15, and Councillor Murphy, you were going to brag about something?
No,
Sorry.
actually just the opposite. I'm a late entry to this bowling team, so I'll be taking sponsorship after county council today. Bring your cash. Thank you very much. Sorry I hit everybody on the street.
Councillor, do you want to plead too?
Well, I was thoroughly unaware until now that the snooze-lose rule was in effect. And I think that's inappropriate. I was not informed, so I'm seeking a resolution from council that all sponsorships be deemed to be a team sponsorship as opposed to an individual team.
I second that motion.
Got it. And Jan, you're the grandfather. You can tell us for sure. So we will be representing you as gracefully as we can. And I practiced late last night, bowling rocks at people's pumpkins in Renfrew, so I'm getting quite good at it. So I'll let you know how that goes if I get arrested, but anyway, we'll do our best, so thank you. With that, Any further questions? And a mover, please.
I so move, Mr. Warden, thank you.
You've heard the report, you've heard the discussion, as interesting as it was. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, none is carried. Thank you very much, Council. And we'll move to Councillor Reinwald and Social Services, please.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Members of the County Council, for your Social Service Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. For your information, number one, the Ontario Works caseload stats. And as you can see, we're down by over 36 people from this time last year. Item number two, child care stats. We're up about 8 families and about 19 children this time last year. Item number three, 2015-2016 Renfrew County Social Housing Registry waitlist snaps comparison. We're actually down by about 19 from last year in the eligible applicants on the waitlist. And we're up by about 31 on the total applicants on the waitlist. And we're down on our special priority victims of domestic violence. Item number four, celebration of National Housing Day. And you'll go on page 135 of the report, just to report more information on that. Item number five, Ontario Early Years Child and Family Centers, certifying investment for 2017. Says in the notes, the province of Ontario now plan for moving forward. With this, the centers will be managed locally. And beginning in January 2017, the Ministry of Education provided a one-time $5 million investment for consolidation of municipal services managers. And so the County of Renfrew received $87,719, which is very nice. Item number six, the Community Homelessness Prevention Initiative, CHIPPY. And you'll note below the 2017-18 allocation and 2018-19 allocation, which has changed since when we was first discussed. Item number seven, Ontario Works Division QP Local 498090 certification. Resolutions 8, 2016 Social Infrastructure Fund increase to IH seniors. Resolution number SS-CC-16-10-65, moved by chair, seconded by committee, that the request for proposal for the development of affordable rental housing under the 2016 Social Infrastructure Fund issued on September 28, 2016 be canceled, and then a new request for proposal be issued in the month of November 2016, identifying the new annual funding allocations and guideline dates in the 2017-2018 fiscal year. And that's well explained in your background. And all of which is respectfully submitted by myself, Chair Reinwald, and committee members Emo, Farr, Gibson, Bruns, McKay, Robinson, and Stackman.
Thank you. Comments, questions, concerns from council on item number one? Item two? Item three? Item number four? Item number five? Item six? Item seven? If I could offer a comment, it was nice to see that employee group exercise and conduct which would be in essence a vote that was conducted fairly, and then announce the results and then move to reinforce their action. I think it speaks to their comfort level in the County of Renfrew as an employer. We've strove over the years to ensure that we treat everybody fairly and appropriately, and I think in part that might have been a contributing factor to them making their own decision, and I stress it was their own decision, which was separate from any any actions or efforts by the County of Renfrew or any of our management team. So it was entirely a decision and a process undertaken by the workforce, overseen by the workforce, reported by the workforce, and subsequently carried out. Item number 8. I'm sorry, Councilor Robinson. Sorry, I missed you.
I apologize if I wasn't able to attend the meeting. I just have a couple of questions. One is the 14 requests that we did receive. What happens to those? And then my second question is, what is the new deadlines, and are they more reasonable for us?
Mr. Morrow, please.
Thank you, Warden. Through you, Councilor Robinson. So the first part of your question with respect to what happens to the old or the current process, we have kept those proponents informed. In fact, last week we sent them an email indicating that this resolution was coming to council, so they are well aware of what potentially could roll out. We have probably spoken to about 90% of them who have called us as a result of that email going out to them. So they're actually quite relieved in terms of some more breathing room. I really need to give the warden and Reeve Robinson some credit here. This is a direct result of the meeting we had with the minister on the Sunday at AMO. And really, when I see what's transpired here, we got what we asked for and a little bit more, because at that meeting at AMO, the warden and Reeve Robinson had asked for a breather in terms of the room. They said, well, you need to find another municipality to swap funds with. We had asked the question, I believe, at that meeting, that, listen, why can't you just lump the money together and push back the deadlines? The answer we got at that time was, no, we have some really tight deadlines here with the federal government, and those are our commitments. Now we get this letter back, and it essentially, I don't know how they've done it. I suspect what they've done is behind the scenes they've done a swap, but we were not a party to that, and we did not have to do any of that work. And we received a letter saying your deadline is now pushed out to 2017. So to get to the second part of your question, we are working with our legal counsel to update the current RFP. What our intent is, and I don't have the dates written down in stone yet, but I hope to bring that back to committee with the final group of RFPs in February of 2017. And I think that gives us adequate time now, given the new timelines that the province has established for us, to get a shovel, to make some approvals here through committee and council, and then to award it, and then to have them sign a contribution agreement and get a shovel on the ground for the spring and the summer. So that is our goal moving forward. Looser timelines at this point in terms of, I don't have them nailed down. I will in the next week or so. Thank you, Warden, and thank you for your question.
Thank you. I can say that having had a couple conversations with Minister Ballard, he was most interested in ensuring that we would be able to proceed with projects, and what was proposed by our delegation made sense to him, and he tried to apply a common sense solution focus to it when he was making his decisions and then instructing on his staff, and was quite willing in a subsequent conversation to discuss possibilities, and then the letter bore that out for us. So I have to give every accolade to the Minister's office for listening to us. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just for clarity purposes, any RFP that was submitted, they'll have to resubmit in accordance with the new proposal deadlines.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to a submission. A mover, please. Thank you. You've heard the motion. You've heard the discussion. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None. It's carried. Thank you. Bylaws, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Donahue. The bylaws listed on item 11 and attached here to as Schedule A on the County Council agenda dated October 26, 2016, be deemed read 3 times and passed.
Thank you, council. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? None, it's carried. Thank you, council. Notice of motions. And seeing none, we'll move to members' written motions. And seeing none, we'll move to new business. And Councillor Sweet, you waved me down earlier.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. On your desk or in front of you is a bit of an update on the 3 meetings that we've had so far as the CP Rail is concerned. We've had 3, one in Chalk River, one in Cochrane, and one in Renfrew. I think it's fair to say that we've had a good turnout at each and every one of those meetings. 75 registered in Chalk River, 86 in Cochrane, and over 80 in Renfrew. A good cross-section, quite frankly, of interested individuals. ATV clubs were there, all 3 locations. Snowmobilers, of course, and cyclists, which is to be expected. But also walkers were there, bird watchers were there, the business community was there. What we're trying to do, also create a farming community. A lot of the farming community just wanted reassurances that the situation that's in place currently with any of the access across the trail is still going to be there. And we're there to give them assurances that nothing is changing as far as that is concerned. What's in place will stay in place. I think that was part and parcel, particularly for the farming community. The business community was certainly looking to see what it was going to do for them in terms of economic development, which is a big feature of that. And there's nothing in there about encroachment or anything of that nature. I see Mayor Murphy there looking at me. Anyway, I thought it was very, very positive. You can see some of the comments that are there. I had nothing to do with putting this list together, incidentally. It was put together by Evelyn and there, myself. But I think, generally speaking, one of the things I think it came through loud and clear is there was some concern, and we're working through that, of the compatibility of mechanized vehicles and passive type walkers and hikers and people out with strollers and hiking and things of that nature, and the compatibility with that as far as mechanized vehicles, particularly ATVs and snowmobilers and things of that nature. I think we can accommodate that in terms of the width of the trail is over 100 feet in length, and there's certainly a lot of interest in trying to generate 2 different types of trails parallel to each other. And I think because of the width, that could certainly be possible, certainly in the urban areas, and the big the Renfrews, the Armpires, the Pembrokes, and Petawalas, and so forth. And I think we can certainly do that and have a look at it. All this is being done, as I've said before, the 6 meetings that are being planned is to put together and gather all the information that we can put together in a management plan to deal with the management of the trail. We do have a template in place. It's the K&P management plan, and we're using that as a template going forward. But we need to find out from everyone out there as much as we can as to what their interests are and how they see it and what they want to have out of their trail. And I've emphasized that it is their trail. And the other emphasis that I make at all the meetings we've been at so far is this is a multi-purpose 4-season trail. And I've emphasized that every time I get the opportunity. We do have an opportunity to talk to individuals. A large number of staff are in attendance, and along with elected. Mayor Gibson was in attendance, Mayor Reinwald was in attendance, Walter Stack, Reed from Armpire was in attendance too. It's not a question and answer situation. It's an open house where we walk around and talk to people and they talk to us, so it's not an open mic type of situation. We don't want it to be taken over by any particular interest group, so it's an opportunity to listen to individuals as a whole. They fill out the various forms that they put down their concerns, their interests, or whatever. And I think when you look at the comments that are made, it's very positive, and I think that was the general thrust that we've all had afterwards on debriefing, that it's been a very positive experience, and they're looking forward to get the trail up and running as fast as possible. There will be an overall recap of the entire 6 meetings at the end of the process, but I thought it would be important just to give you an update at this point in time for the first 3 that we've had.
Thank you. Councillor Ronald, please.
Just to follow up on that, first of all, I want to thank Councillor Sweet for setting the tone of the meeting on the evening of October 19th at the Chalk River Lions Club Hall. He mentioned quite clearly that it was a Four Seasons trail, and so it eliminated all of the the things that have been talked about in the past. So eliminated everything right there. Really set the tone straight for the evening, and it was a very, very productive evening. I also wanted to thank the staff here in Renfrew County who were there to help support this whole initiative. They were absolutely fantastic. The folks that I had spoken to were really pleased with the with the time that they were given to speak with both staff and people within the committee. So there was a few people around the table here that were there. Walter was there the evening to help out and support. Mayor Gibson was there for questioning like I was, I guess. So there's quite a few people around here that were there, and it was very, very positive, I found. I went in and interjected and spoke to people and asked what their thoughts and feelings were, and they were quite pleasantly surprised to see that it was going to be more of a multi-purpose trail as opposed to just cyclists or just ATVs or just snowmobiles. So thank you very much to Bob Sweet and also to the Renfrew County staff.
Thank you. Any other new business? I have 2 things. One is a reminder that the County of Renfrew Annual Service Awards for Employees is on November the 2nd on this 2016, November 2nd. It's a Wednesday at the Best Western in Pembroke. So November 2nd, not the 6th, the 2nd. And it's a really good opportunity. We normally have 30, 40, sometimes 50 staff who are reaching significant milestones, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or 30 years, as well as an opportunity to speak to some of the recently retired staff who have left the organization during the year. So it's a very good evening, and I would encourage you to attend if at all possible. And we certainly appreciate seeing as many members of County Council as possible, recognizing you probably have 5 events you could go to that night if you could see your way clear to coming that night. We'd really appreciate it. Also, I'd like to announce that in November, the annual shaping of the fatted cow, or my face, or whatever you prefer, is occurring in November, and it's to recognize the importance of raising funds for male and men's health. And I appreciate any support I get, or anybody like Councillor Doncaster or Councillor Stack, who wouldn't mind shaving and starting in as well. Councillor Kingsbury as well. But anyway, we'll see what happens. So, any other new business? And with that, we would move to close. I would like to suggest you need a motion to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. The mover, Councillor Donahue, second, Councillor Gibson. You've heard the motion. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? None is carried. Thank you.